Welcome back. In this video we are going to work with radio buttons, and as you can see you can drag it from the toolbox. You can simply drag a radio button into your UI and you will find your radio button in the grid, which has content. Well, it has multiple properties that we have seen already, and this is not the way that I want to work with radio buttons in this video. I'm just going to create a stack panel and I'm going to use XAML in order to build most of that up. So in the stack panel, I first of all want to have a label, and that label should write something like, do you like me? So do you like me? There we are. This is our label, and I'm gonna say it should be bold. So font weight will be bold, like that. And well, what else should we add? Maybe a font size. So let's add a font size and let's put it to 20. So do you like me? Pretty long text. And now we need to say either yes, no, or well, maybe. But there is nothing in between those three. So there are only those three choices. And that's the advantage of radio buttons. They always only have one of them active within a radio group. So let's create a radio button here, radio button, and I'm gonna do it a little more extended because I don't want just to have a simple radio button as we have just seen. I want this radio button to be, well, wrapping in a rectangle and a text block. So something like wrap panel. So I'm gonna create a wrap panel here. And within the wrap panel, I want to have a rectangle, which is going to be green in this case. So somebody says yes, so it should be green. Green is good. And the width should be something like 16 and the height should also be 16. So it's a 16 times 16 green grid that we have there. There we are. This is our rectangle that we have there. So this is our rectangle, the green one, as you can see. And now I want some text next to it. So text block, and it's going to be the text of yes. So I like the person. And the foreground should be green as well. So green and green, I like the person. So this is our text block and it says yes. Now maybe we should have a little margin in between objects. So I'm gonna add a margin on the highest level on the stack panel level like that. As you can see now, it is a little distance up there, and we can even add a little margin within our text block, or maybe even the radio button. Let's make the whole radio button margin of 10 pixels, or maybe just 5 pixels. That should be fine. And then also a margin for the text block, because it's a little too close to the rest. But then not towards the top and towards the bottom, but only to the left. And the margin is either one value, so you can add either one value, or you can add 4 values, starting from left, then going to top, right, and bottom. So left, top, right, bottom. So the one that I want to have is left, 5 pixels, top, I don't want any, right, I don't need any, and bottom, I don't need any as well. And now you can see there's a little distance here, 5 pixels of margin between our yes and the square that we have here, or the rectangle that we have. All right, so left, top, right, bottom. That's how we use this margin. All right, so that's one radio button, and I would like to have 3 radio buttons. So actually, let me cut it back down so that we only have the right amount of lines here. And I'm gonna copy this radio button and put it just next to it or below it. And this one should be filled red, and the text should say something like no. So the text will be no, and there we are, yes, no, and of course the text should also be red. So actually not in here, but in here. So within our no button, the red should be, or the no should be red. So that's that with radio buttons, super simple. But now I want to add another one, which will be maybe. And now instead of a rectangle, I would like to have a little image here. So I'm gonna get rid of the rectangle, and I'm gonna use image, which we have not used yet. And whenever you want to use an image, you need a source for that image. So in my case, I have the source on my PC. So I'm gonna say source, and then you need the right directory. And in my case, it's on my PC. So I have this folder called C# Masterclass course. I have the projects folder, and in there is a maybe file, and it's called maybe.png. And it's this file here. And of course it's very big and it will be downsized. But if you would like to downsize it, it really makes sense to do it before you use the image. So just edit this image and size it down. But this is going to be the image that I want to use. So this is going to be my source for the image. Then I can specify how wide and so forth it should be. So because otherwise, as you can see, it's the original size, but I can downscale it to, let's say, width of 32 and a height of 32 as well. So now I have this maybe image there, and the text should not be red. Actually, it's okay if it's the standard color of black. So this is the text of maybe. There we are. And now we have our radio button. Do you like me? Yes, no, and maybe. All right, now let's start this application and check it out. There we are. Do you like me? Yes, no, maybe. And as you can see, it was empty before that. And now we can select it and they will always be connected to each other. So those three are in the same group. They are connected with each other and only one of them can be active. So that's the advantage of radio buttons in comparison to checkboxes. So if you only want to have one option, radio buttons are your way to go. If you want one of them to be specified at the start, so one of them to be checked at the start, you can simply use the isChecked property. So within the radio button here, let's say I want maybe to be checked. So I'm gonna use isChecked and I'm gonna set it to true. All right, so now let's start it again. And you will see that maybe is checked from the start. If you want to have an event, when somebody presses on one of them, you can simply create that event either manually by adding here checked and then adding a event listener here, or you can simply double click on it. So I'm going to double click on no, and as you can see, radio button checked 1 and radio button checked. Those two methods were created, and you see they have an object sender and rooted event arc. So the same thing that we have seen with checkboxes. And here you could add something like a show message box. No, message box.show, please say yes. So this is what it's gonna say, and the other one is also gonna say yes, because it's the two no and maybe ones that I have added an event to. And if you don't like the name, you can change the name. So I'm gonna say something like not radio button checked, but no was checked. And of course I need to change the name in the code behind. So this one will be no checked. And then we have the maybe checked, and I'm gonna change the name here as well. Maybe checked. I copy that and I change it here. So please say yes. Please say yes twice. Okay. And if somebody presses yes, then we could say something like thank you. So let's create that one manually. So here I'm gonna use checked, and I'm gonna create a new method called yes underscore checked. And now let's create the method for it in code behind. So we're going to use the same principles that we've seen here. Private void, yes, or actually like this, yes checked, object, sender, and rooted event arcs. And I'm going to call them E as well. And now here we can go ahead and say something like thank you. Thank you. All right, now let's check it out. And by the way, if you did that, you will see that this event was called because, well, let's go ahead again, because it was checked you have this functionality. So here you see, please say yes was automatically opened up, even though my program didn't appear yet. And after you click yes, then you see your program. And that's because maybe is checked. And this event is called either way. So whenever it's checked, and it's checked at the start. So when it's initialized. So I'm gonna say no, and it says please yes, and then I say yes, and it says thank you. Okay, so these are the different events that we have created here. And here, this information is checked equals true. This line here, or this code, actually triggers this checked event straight away whenever the program is initialized. So if I had, for example, a name here, name, and it's gonna be RB, yeah, maybe. This is RB maybe. So now I can go here in the initialize method, or the constructor. RB maybe is checked, and I set it to true. So that's how I can check it via code. All right, so if we run that again, you will see that this event is still popping up. So this checked event, please say yes, is still popping up. Do you like me? Yes. Great. So now you know how to use RadioButtons, and you have seen how you can implement images into your user interface.